welcome back. My name is Ashton and today we're going to be talking about my paintings. I've been painting over on Livestream for, I would say, the last year and a half, and through that year and a half, my paintings have gone through many rebirths, many style changes, many revolutions. I have found my style is constantly in flux and we're always trying something new. So I thought it might be fun if we start all the way back at the beginning and kind of go through era by era and talk a little bit about what was going on in my life and where I was creatively at that time. Going back to January of 2023, I was really unclear of what I wanted to do creatively when it came to my art. All I knew is that I loved to live stream and I wanted to start sharing my creative process with you. I had a very loose idea of different techniques that I liked and techniques I wanted to explore. One of the techniques I wanted to explore was the idea of layering multiple colors of paint onto a paintbrush and swiping it together almost in a patchwork style. I would cover the entire background in a single color palette, and then I would start layering elements through masking shapes off. I've always loved a circle. I've always loved an imperfect circle, and that is something you will see repeating throughout my artwork, no matter the era we enter. After about a month of painting with the patchwork technique, I was feeling somewhat constrained. I had liked how the colors were blending together, but I wanted to gain the skill of creating more of a soft gradient. That's when we enter my next era. Although the colors are quite dominant and you can see quite a few lines where they come together, I did start working on the idea of blending and working in color palettes that were more favorable to each other. Although I am a maximalist through and through, I wanted to maybe cosplay as a minimalist for a little bit. I lost the background color and opted for a completely white background with our circles layered on top. I was still using masking tape to mask off my circles, but everything was starting to be drawn by freehand. I'm still using very opaque layers. There's not a lot of transparency in my paintings at this stage, but I started introducing 3D mediums, which are fun to play with and they add a really cool textural element. You can see the ridges and the tool marks that I use to make those shapes. And of course, it's circles. It's always gonna be circles. I love my circles. Continuing with my idea of minimalism and the idea of stripping down the layers and just really going back to the fundamentals with my paintings, we enter a new era. I would still say this is a minimalistic style, especially for me, a true maximalist. There's a lot of really soft colors and loose lines, and I played more with the ideas of circles coming off the edges. This painting is called Two Talking Heads. The cool thing about all of my paintings is I am terrible when it comes to coming up with names for them, so I actually let the live stream viewers pick the names and vote on the best name in the comments, and then whatever wins becomes the name of that painting for the rest of time. Is that kind of putting the viewers to work? Yes, but I find it to be a lot of fun seeing all of the creative names that everyone can come up with, because when I create a painting, I don't necessarily have a theme or vision in place. I generally have just a loose idea, whether that be a shape, a color palette, or a texture, and I just let that go wherever it goes. So once a painting is done, I don't really have a predetermined feeling about the painting, and that's where you guys come in handy, because you guys have watched the process throughout the entire thing and you have established your own feelings towards this painting, whether you absolutely love it or absolutely hate it. By this time, I was feeling a little creatively burnt out. I was feeling like I had created a lot of what I had set out to create. I had been painting almost every day by this stage, and I was feeling a little bit lost. I looked back on the paintings that I had created at that time. I generally create anywhere between, I would say, 4 to 7 paintings in any era that I love and that I keep, but to get to that 4 or 7 paintings that are finished in an era, I'm maybe making 10 to 12, and a lot of them don't make the cut. They end up getting painted over and started again. This painting has had many lives. There is texture underneath a lot of the paint because it at one time looked something completely different. And that was kind of a habit that I fell into, was I would make a batch of paintings, pick the ones I liked, and then paint it over the ones that I didn't. I started using a little bit more transparent layers in these works. I was doing thinner coats of paint, using water to really play with transparency, and I started really piling the colors on and finding more of a color palette and cohesiveness than I had previously in the past. Entering our next era. So, as you can see, I'm sure from looking at all of my pieces of art so far, I was kind of stuck in a repetitive process of doing the same thing and having the same techniques. And I wanted to continue to challenge myself and continue to step out of the box a little bit. And that is how this era came apart. Again, we have the theme of wanting to create nice, smooth, soft gradients. And I was taking my paintbrush and layering on the paint as I had way back in the beginning in the very first painting that I had showed you. But this time, instead of doing really short cross strokes, I was doing large swoops. And again, playing with transparency and playing with the idea of water and drip marks, but then still my old habits are always gonna seep back in, and I'm gonna create circular shapes and small patterns to kind of tie everything together and layer and layer and layer and layer and layer again. As I had said previously, I always had a super large collection of unfinished paintings. I didn't like them enough to continue working on them, but I liked them too much to paint over them completely. To the final era so far. Collaging is something that I've never really done. It's also something that I never really thought I would do. Although I did like the idea of creating my own collage papers, laying them down onto the canvas, and then painting on top of them. Creating collage papers came at the most perfect time for me. Like I said, I was really burnt out creatively, and I was feeling a lot of pressure anytime I was working on a canvas. But working on a collage paper, I didn't feel that same pressure because it didn't matter what the entire piece of collage paper looked like. I was just looking for a small section out of a very big sheet of paper that might be able to work in amongst everything else. So with this painting, you can see the different sheets of collage paper that I made, as well as layering on top of paint. We have some soft repeating patterns and just slowly blending all of the sheets together until we like the whole idea. This released a lot of tough feelings I was having with my art and made me enjoy the process again, because I didn't have to worry about what the finished product was or what style I was working in or what techniques I wanted to use. I could just focus on a color palette and trying to create as many interesting pieces of paper I could out of a single color palette. I feel so full and so full of life whenever I create art on live stream, and it is something that I genuinely feel so grateful I have the opportunity to do with you guys. And it makes my heart so full that I get to talk about my art a little bit and share where I was creatively throughout this time. Hopefully you saw a few things that you liked or that resonated with you. I would love to hear your opinions, and thanks for watching.